For the fact that the market is running out of steam here means that what we may see, and I've seen this plenty of times, we may see a pullback this week, followed by another rally into next week. May 23rd is Friday of next week. I don't know if I made that clear on the written issue, which I recommend you read first before you watch these. But what we may be having here is that in terms of price, it may be that Bitcoin does not go any further than 100 and let's see what the high was. I think it was 106 almost, 100, 105, 706. So about $106,000. It may be that Bitcoin goes no further than 106K in this run up. What might happen, however, is that 106,000 level, it may be retested by next Friday. It doesn't have to be exactly on May 23rd either. I would say that as soon as May 18, we can expect this stop to form. This is the number one possibility. This is the main, this is what I call my base case right now is I don't think Bitcoin goes any further because we have this major turning point. It's not major, but it is a significant turning point here in late May, next Friday. And I don't think Bitcoin's going to go much further before next Friday. That's a long way of saying we may have topped out already, and what we may be seeing now is just the topping out process. I would expect 106K to be retested at some point next week. Notice that I'm not mistaken, the 18th of May is next Sunday. So sometime next week, I do expect to see another rally, and then following that rally, the high will form. And so it's what I'm tracing out here with these arrows. We've had the rally. Now we're experiencing a bit of a pullback. I do think the market is going to firm up into next week. But then as soon as next week comes around, I'm expecting a high sometime around May 23rd, but probably earlier. My timing model is saying that if it's not going to be on the 23rd of May, then it's going to be a little earlier. The 18th, I believe, also showed up as a minor but possible turning point. So we're entering a week. Next week is, let's call it reversal week. It is very likely that the market turns around and heads south starting next week. There is another possibility, though, but this is only a 20% probability. What I just described, a high next week, 80% chance of that happening. There's also a 20% chance, this happens occasionally, is that Bitcoin falls hard into next week. If it goes down into the 90s, again, if Bitcoin trades with a 90 handle on it, again, into next week, especially as we head into next Friday, then there's a possibility, and I'll be sure to let you know next week if I see this scenario playing out. But if Bitcoin crashes here and it loses the 100K level into next week, then guess what? The cycle is going to invert. Yeah, these forecasts, they can invert about 20% of the time based on my research. And so if Bitcoin loses momentum here and continues to go down, which I don't really see happening, but if we do, and again, let's just take this scenario here that I'm laying out with the arrows. If Bitcoin falls below this dashed horizontal level into next week, then there's a very high probability that May 23rd is not a high, it is a low instead. This would extend the rally into at least I think it's July 7th. So it will give us another month of rallying if we saw that. And so this is what I'm describing. A Bitcoin would fall into Friday of next week, on or around Friday of next week. And then from there, it would make a low, a pretty significant low, but it would not be an 80-day cycle low. It will be a 20-day pause, but a significant one at that. If you're wondering what a significant 20-day cycle looks like, it's a cycle that looks like this. A big rally followed by a big sell-off, all within about 20 days. When normally a 20-day cycle is a little weaker, it looks like this. It looks like this. This is a 20-week cycle. This is a 20-week cycle rally, very muted. And then this is a 20-week cycle sell-off. This is in the context of a downtrend. So these 20-week cycles tend to be quite muted in the price action, but sometimes they're quite prominent. You're seeing it here, or we saw it here between March and April of this year. If Bitcoin were to fall here, we would see a prominent 20-day cycle, but it probably would not be an 80-day. It probably wouldn't qualify as an 80-day wave. And so this is there's an off chance that this is actually what's playing out. The correction started earlier. It started ahead of schedule, which means we're going to get a cycle inversion where May 23rd is a low instead of a high. This actually is a bullish case scenario. So if we're falling into next week, that's actually quite bullish because this May 23rd date probably going to produce some type of turning point. Maybe it doesn't, but it probably will. And if we're falling into next week, it's going to be a low. And if it's a low, then this cycle will extend and we're going to have even higher or even more upside before any meaningful pullback.